No, you're not.
No.
Not yet.
Hold it, hold it.
It's connecting.
Good.
Good.
Board of Directors meeting is called to order. Bill, calling the roll.
Here.
Okay. Sam,
Here.
Grace, here. Josh is here.
I'm here.
Mary,
Todd's here.
Todd, and our GM, Chuck. Okay. It's now for residents' comments. Is that Mike live?
Yes.
Yes.
Jack, this music doesn't go off?
I'm Debbie Ott. I'm the neighborhood rep for Braille. And I noticed on the agenda, there's no topic for vinyl privacy fencing in phase 3. At the November neighborhood rep meeting, Kathleen brought it up, and then she said she will not discuss it at the December one, but it will be discussed here. So I don't know if Chuck is going to cover that in his section, or if it can be added, or if you guys have any information on it, you can share with us.
I don't think we had that on the agenda, did we, Chuck?
No.
No. It's certainly an important topic.
I can share what's going on in Castleberry, if you're interested.
Let's go through the comments first.
Jerry Kern, Somerville. Kind of coming off the heels of the discussion of the budget meeting that was earlier this week. It was talked about how to proceed with the reserves and how we can increase our reserve contribution so that we don't have a shortfall when we get into 2028 and those road repair elements. And I know that what was proposed was raising the flat $3,000 fee that we currently have to a flat $5,000 fee across the board. And again, I just would say that due to the difference in average home prices in the condos versus the villas versus single-family homes, I know the villas and the condos, average sale price is significantly lower than a lot of our single-family homes. So, you know, as that entrance fee increases, that disparity becomes more and more prevalent. So I would recommend that we would maybe take under advisement or consideration alternative methods other than just a flat fee increase. We certainly need to do something. I think in general, we've talked about this in the past, that maybe basing that reserve funding solely off of home sales, which is a very volatile factor, isn't necessarily the best solution. Not that I'm wanting to pay into reserves and increase my monthly fees or quarterly fees either. But definitely I think we need to come up with a better long-term solution for our reserve funding. And I don't necessarily think that just doing a flat fee increase sufficiently addresses the root cause problem. And I think it ultimately would hinder both villa and condo sales, since condos currently are making up around 18% of the total sales. If that were to take a significant hit, I think it would be, you know, counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish is increase of reserves. Thanks.
Evening, folks. Andrew Remmer, 2545 Blackburn Circle. Just want to take an opportunity and thank Bill for his leadership this evening as he presents to you the budget. I do sit on the Finance Committee with Bill. Just wanted to make the board aware that the Finance Committee is in almost, I would say, full agreement that what we are presenting to you tonight is in the health and the interest of the community going forward, not only the operation budget for next year to handle the inflationary pressures that we're all seeing globally and in the state, in the country, And at the same time, I think it does present a solid growth plan for the reserves of the future of the community. I do not like to speak to the rumor mill that occurs on Facebook, but I know that some of the concerns that continue to be expressed reside around DTE, reside around the condition of the pool, reside around the condition of the gates. So while we stand forward with the budget to present to you all this evening that Bill's going to go through, I would express that I think from a perspective of both management, company, board, and those members that are participating in committees, that we find a way to help you all to ensure that we get these gate and pool situations resolved as timely as possible. As we presented to the community on Tuesday, the opportunity to get DTE caught up, paid, and at a point where we can evaluate other options for the community at that point, I think are things that we need to be considering after today's presentation of the budget to you all. So again, I just want to again express our support of it. I think moving forward, it's for the health of the community. I think it will meet the budgetary needs that the community is asking for. I think for a while we've been asking for Cadillac service. I'm not sure we've been budgeting to Cadillac level. Okay?
Anybody else is there? I got
That's
one
it.
more. I'll use this mic here. I get more than 3 minutes, right?
You got two questions, so you get two.
I got that. So, Dan Fitzgerald from the Villas sent in a question that he'd like read as part of this portion of the meeting. Question number 1 is part of the chain link fence that borders Sandoval's property along Bridle Lane, runs through Pimlico and along the 2 properties of Anguilla. We'd like confirmation that this maintenance along this fence line and shrub line planted is on the Sandoval side of the fence and belongs to the Sandoval Community. The hedge line requires trimming, annual mulching, which has not been done, which is not part of the village budget. Answer to that question is that is the gray areas, which we voted on the last meeting, so that's all been taken care of. And that will be handled in the first quarter, and I think they've already started on Bridle. And second question was actually the same question that Debbie brought up about the fences. So thank you for your time.
On the question of the vinyl fence, Kathleen had received a legal opinion from our attorney as to the ownership of the fences in phase 3. Those are owned not by Sandoval, but by individual homeowners. The technical term of that is called a border fence. When after in 2017, when the fence came down, we were able to get Taylor Morrison to repair it because they did not follow proper code in installing the posts. They did not have proper wooden inserts. They did that. Before that, however, there was a survey sent out to all homeowners asking in that area, asking would they prefer the vinyl fence or a hedge. The answer came back majority hedge. Once Taylor Morrison said they would repair the fence, survey was sent out again, and the answer came back fence. Along with that, it was stated to the homeowners that, okay, you've chosen the fence, it is now yours. So the fence behind our homes is not owned by Sandoval, it is owned by us. And we don't really have a great solution, except in many cases, people are putting up a very nice cage. But there's no intent, as far as I know, for Sandoval HOA to replace that fence.
Can I comment?
Sure.
The privacy fence along this Castleberry Street, one of the owners on that side that will have the fence has built these fences before, and so what they have done, they saved all of the pieces of the fence, pulled out the hedge that grew along, and they're replacing the fence themselves with the direction of the homeowner that has the knowledge. And if you are interested at all, I'll put you in contact with him, and perhaps he can join in an effort to help you with your fence too. I don't know that, but it's a suggestion.
Can I respond to that, or? No?
After,
Okay.
oh,
And I'll make a comment in reference to the $3,000 house sale. I just heard tonight another solution, which I think makes a lot of sense. I know the board has to discuss it, but 1% of sales price rather than a flat fee should work for everyone.
Bill and I talked about this, and we'll need to talk further about alternatives. But I do appreciate the need of the condos being different from that of the rest of the subdivision. I too am a homeowner with a privacy fence behind it, and mine was destroyed. My daughter has one behind hers, and they were able to repair it. Our committee would never allow a fence like that to be put up again. There's not a fence in Cape Coral that survived the 3 hurricanes. And it was rated at 70 miles an hour, and you know we get more than 70 miles an hour. So replacing that fence is just not tenable. If however, you can do it, it's been grandfathered, so they're not gonna ask you to take it down. But we don't really have an answer for everyone. I would suggest put up a hedge. Okay, as you know, our president, Kathleen Palestini, has resigned from the board due to a family emergency. Kathleen has worked tirelessly for us over this past year, and we owe her a great debt of gratitude for her contribution. But now we need to complete our set of officers for the duration of the 2022-2023 term. Floor is open for nominations for board president.
I nominate you, John.
Second.
Any discussion? Ready for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Nobody wants that.
I know.
It was prepared. I'm going to make a motion that Todd Reinhardt be our vice president.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, Todd Reinhardt to be selected as our vice president. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. As you know, Kathleen was liaison to a number of committees, and now we need to fill those slots. She has worked very hard in those committees. I propose that I would be the liaison to the neighborhood representatives as president. And I propose that Todd Reinhardt be liaison to the covenants and risk management. Particular risk management because Todd happens to have a commercial insurance license, and probably one of the most qualified people on the board to look at this sort of thing. So I'd like to ask that you approve those 3 things.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. Okay. We've all read the minutes of the last meeting. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the November meeting.
Seconded.
Motion made second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay. General manager's report.
There's 2 different meetings.
2 different meetings, special board.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay. I'd like a motion then to approve this.
Motion to approve the special board meeting minutes of December 1st.
I second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, folks. This is my maiden voice, I gotta do this right. All right, next is General Manager report, Chuck Gill.
Okay, first and foremost, the number one topics is the status of the gates and security. The Envira system is still having issues with the software, which doesn't allow us to close those gates. We do have Surfside closed. Surfside has been closed for about 3 weeks now. Unfortunately, we've had 3 gate crashes in 3 weeks. The good news is only one of them caused damage. The second one was a vehicle that didn't cause damage, and the third one was a child on a bicycle that did cause damage. That video we're sending to America's Funniest Videos. We are working with Vera on a daily basis to get this corrected. As soon as it gets corrected, we'll make announcements well in advance that we're going to close the gates, so it doesn't become a surprise. Everyone's going to have to be able to make sure that their stickers are working and that they have access. So we're going to give you advance notice. At this point, the second topic I have is debris removal. Daily calls to FEMA in the city without little resolution. False expectations as to it's going to happen this weekend, it's going to happen 2 days from now, go on, and those dates come and pass without apology. I call the city of Cape Coral on a daily basis, leave a message, and I also call the FEMA number that they have. Even when I'm given dates, when people come to see me and say, when are they going to pick up the debris, I'm hesitant to give them a date because they've not even attempted to hit a date when they expected. So I wish I had access to the guy driving the truck, because that's who we want. Our gates are open. There are no reason for them not to have access into the property, because I don't want that to be an issue as well. And in my last GM report, I just remind people, we don't know when they're coming. When they do come, please remove your vehicles from the street, because again, we don't want to give them any reason not to pick up our debris. Other people have asked me, well, why don't we just pay Crawford to remove the debris? We have an opportunity to get it out of here for free. I think we should do the best we can to exhaust that. And if that becomes, if this becomes a never-ending situation, at that point in time, that's a board decision that would have to be made to see if we go on that route. But no one, all of us at this table want the debris removed. It's not that we're all working together to get this. Like I said, if we had somebody who can, talk to the guy driving the truck, we would have done that. So, a couple of other things. Part of hurricane cleanup, we are finally starting to see some quotes after weeks and weeks of waiting. We are still seeking quotes on fence, erosion, lights that were damaged, signage, the front wall repair, stump removal, and the roof for the clubhouse. So we're starting to see some progress. I'm meeting with Bill. Either we speak every day as to what the status is and what's coming in. And the last thing I want to talk about is staffing. I'm proud to announce that Erin Houston, our receptionist, successfully passed the CAM test for the state and is being promoted to a CAM. Her last day is tomorrow. And Jessica Carter has been hired and she starts on Monday. Erin is nice enough to stay an extra day on Monday and do some training, as well as John will carry off the training there. But we're excited to have Jessica join our Sandoval family. And then secondly, John Novak will be replacing Matt Myers, who is our maintenance guy, who was unfortunately injured during hurricane prep. And John will start working with Brian on the maintenance department. He also starts on Monday. We had some great lifestyle director lined up, and in this very challenging world of hiring good people, I think the candidate resigned and then was counter-offered, and we kind of lost on that one. So we're hoping after the new year that we'll have a better flow of talented lifestyle directors coming on board. I have been the lifestyle director in her absence, and I can tell you, it's a challenge. But we are kind of trying to keep up with everything. And I thank everyone's patience, because sometimes we're a little late getting in here, setting up card tables and things of that nature, but we're doing the best we can, and we hope the resumes start rolling in. So we're excited. So that's my GM report. Any questions from the board?
I have it.
You're closest to the mic.
You got a mic right there. Here's a mic right here.
Question, is Invera adjusting their bill accordingly based on their non-service over the last couple of months?
We've been having to, I haven't paid any of their bills yet, but they're smart enough not to send me a bill. But when they do send the bills, that would be a discussion that we're gonna have, but not having the access to the gates.
Same with waste management, I hope.
Waste management,
Well, they're Waste Pro, they're not picking up horticultural at all.
Crawford picks up the horticulture.
But before,
Oh, here in each,
we would set our horticultural out there and Waste Pro would pick it up. And they haven't since.
okay. I think because FEMA is involved, I'm not sure, but,
So I believe there was a notice put out by the city of Cape Coral when horticultural pickup is supposed to restart. And that's not a fee that we pay as a community, that's paid through our property taxes.
Yeah, that's right.
I just want to clarify that what I've been hearing on Facebook a little bit, that I get involved in it anymore, is that several residents seem to feel that the homeowner association is responsible for removing their personal hurricane debris. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands that that's not the case. We paid to have ours removed because it wasn't being done quickly enough. It's very unfortunate that we went from a federal program that did a great job to a state program that's doing a poor job. It's hit and miss at best. It's a shame that we don't have Lee County Services doing it or even the city of Cape Coral doing it, because I think even they would be more organized. I feel for the people who still have debris in their yard, but please stop thinking that it is Sandoval's responsibility to remove waste, hurricane waste that comes out of your yard.
next treasurer's report.
For the treasurer's report, we do not have the financials from November, because we're having our board meeting a week early. As soon as those are released by SOCIA, then I'll prepare the November financials report and distribute it with the board. What I would like to highlight for the board is that we have, and this is the same information that was shared with the community at the budget meeting a couple days ago. Right now, we're looking at a total expense impact at the gross level of approximately $1 million. And as Chuck noted, we're still outstanding some key quotes before we know the full extent of the expenses associated with FEMA. We did get an initial offer from our insurance carrier, and they in fact sent us a check for $211,000 and change. We do not believe that that is an acceptable settlement, so that needs further work. But I asked that the $211,000 be deposited in the Fifth Third account, and it'll sit there until we decide how to disperse it. We are up against a deadline of January 12th to submit an application to FEMA SBA for a small business loan at 1.875%, which is what the rate is for a nonprofit. We're probably going to, because we will not have the full extent of the insurance claim worked out by then, we're going to have to make a swag as to the amount of claim or how much we'll be willing to ask for in the loan and understand the payment structure associated with that. So I'm hoping that by the January board meeting, we'll have more details on that loan application. I will be taking it as a high priority to get that loan application done with Chuck over the next couple of weeks because we don't want to miss this deadline, and I don't expect it'll get extended anymore. And just as we've been saying ever since the October board meeting, once all the costs are identified and all the payments that we can receive from insurance and FEMA are worked out, then we'll sit down as a board and figure out what assessments may be made to recover the difference.
Okay,
I have a question. Bill, is the proposal that you'll be laying out in regards to the insurance claim as well as the SBA loan, will that be run through risk management and the legal committees?
Well, the SBA loan is a pretty straightforward application process. It's a matter of figuring out what the number is going to be that we're going to apply for. For the insurance claim, of course, we need to work through the risk committee because that could potentially involve litigation down the road if we're not satisfied with the appeal.
Okay. I would just recommend that both of those go through that particular committee process of risk and legal.
I'm next on Are we into old business yet, or is there any other questions?
We are in old business.
You need a motion on Bill's
On what?
abbreviated report.
I don't know that we pass treasurer's reports, do we?
Oh, we did in the past, but it's information. It's,
Thank you for your report.
okay. And also, I'm sorry, included in the packet that if the board wants to review is the fact sheet from the SBA regarding the particulars of the loan and what our payment structure may be around it.
The only question I would have is, if we, what yield are we getting from our reserves? Less than 1%, right?
No, what we are seeing right now from our reserve account is approximately 3.25%.
3.25%?
Yeah, the treasury bonds are about 3.4, 3.5% based on I saw the business news about that. As the treasury bonds increase in rate and we roll over our 60, 90-day bonds, we'll start to see an increase in the interest rate income from that.
So we'll be better off taking this loan because it's less than what we're earning from.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it is, and it's a matter of, so once we understand what the amount of loan is going to be and what the payment schedule is, then we can match
1.5%.
how we would pay it off from that. Yeah.
Can I mention that our Kiwanis board last month decided on the SBA loan because of the 1.875, and we're doing the hurricane costs by the loan because our CDs, government-backed CDs, now, the one that was over 4% was a year and a half. And we staggered them so that there would be 3 different months where they come in, and some of them are only just over 3, but it was 6 months. The longer the time frame, the better rate. It was difficult decisions to make, but having 4% on several $100,000 brings in some nice interest.
Now, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but we were planning to have an investment review with the Fifth Third investment managers the week of Ian, so it was canceled. And I've been in correspondence with the Fifth Third people to reschedule that. We have a couple dates that we're considering. John is in the process of getting access to the account also. So once we have that, certainly there'll be an opportunity to have question and answer with the fund managers.
Next is,
Old business?
service contract, right?
So, yeah, as a takeaway from the last meeting, November meeting, was the A+ security contract being run through risk management. It ran through risk management, it was approved, and has been implemented. So I just wanted to report back on that.
When did they start?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay, next item, group resolution.
Okay, what I'm presenting this evening is an amendment to the resolution that was formally approved on Thursday, December the 1st. And this amendment was done in cooperation with Grady. And Grady, I thank you for your input. I'll basically briefly go over this, but the original resolution structure remains in place with some positive enhancements, clarifications, and processes to help improve the ARC approval process. This should be a validation that the board has been nimble and responsive to the circumstances that we've been presented, and we're extremely sensitive to getting people approved for their roof replacements. I'll not read the entire resolution again, but I have provided each of you a copy of the resolution, and the changes have been highlighted. The first change in paragraph 1 basically says, and meets the ARC approved and published neighborhood color palette for all Sandoval neighborhoods. That's in regards to color to roof replacements. I will give Grady and the ARC committee a lot of credit. They have put together a lot of work to design a neighborhood color palette for roofs, and I think it's the intention to have that published as soon as possible, correct? That's the first change. The second one is under paragraph 3. Asphalt shingles are obviously strictly prohibited. The other changes, all the other materials are approved, are unchanged, except for the additional clarifications. A, cement and clay tiles can be flat barrel, or standard barrel tile design. They have to be HVHZ hurricane approved. And for all of those that have learned more about roofs than you ever wanted to, HVHZ is high velocity hurricane zone. That's what that abbreviation is for. And basically it's designed for properties that are in the South Florida area and coastal areas of Florida. Second one is metals. Metals on the list. It can be standing seam. 26 gauge steel is a minimum, also HVHZ hurricane approved. C, metal, long steel panel, 26 gauge steel is a minimum, HVHZ hurricane approved, with PVDF resin for ultraviolet resistance. And that obviously protects the color from fading over longer periods of time. D, stone-coated metal, 26 gauge steel is a minimum, also again HVHZ hurricane approved. Finally, composite tile aesthetic is required, and a minimum, and also to HVHZ hurricane approved. So all of the materials do have to have that designation. All roofing aesthetics must conform to an island Caribbean theme. And the approved neighborhood color palette for roofs will be published, as I mentioned, by the ARC committee no later than January 2023. But I think it's Grady's goal to try to have that done before the end of the year. Is that correct, Grady? Okay. Other than that, that's the modifications to the original resolution. It's being presented as an amendment, And with that, Mr. President, I'll turn it over to you for a vote as I would recommend approval.
I will second.
The motion's been made and seconded, and the comment I would make is that
Under
this,
discussion, can I
sure,
add something?
can I say something first? I just want to congratulate Grady and Todd and Tom for because this was a major point of contention, and it did need clarification, and we need to be fair to ARC and give them the right kind of specification. There was a concern that someone might come up with a little thin tin roof, and we certainly don't want that. Minimum 26 gauge is certainly adequate. Many of our have asked for 24 gauge, which is even stronger. Anyway, it's ready for comments. It's been made and seconded.
What I wanted to add was, one of my neighbors that goes to the dog park where I go most days, mentioned that the metal roofs caused air conditioning bills to go up. Well, when my daughter's house burned 12 years ago, they had a metal roof put on, and they had their attic sprayed with foam, and their air conditioning bills have actually gone down. So consequently, the putting that foam in the attic made a big difference.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say that when we came up with the two separate motions for the roofs, when I read them, they were both pretty much identical, except for a little bit of wording that has been fixed and changed right now. It should also be noted that all of us, the entire board, all agreed on giving the option of different materials, metal, composite. We all agreed on that. Okay, so if anybody's saying 4 of us are one way, 4 of us are the other way, that's further from the truth. This was an agreement, probably one of the last maybe, but we did agree. So as soon as we get that straight, we're all unified in this motion, and we're hoping that with this new amendment, that everybody can find a good medium and get past it, and we go from there. That's it.
I do have one clarification, and you and I discussed this already, and I got John to agree to it. Hopefully tomorrow we can get an e-blast that contains the wording of the resolution if it's approved, and we can get a list of the street color palettes so that people know this is the material that I can use, this is the color that I can use. The ARC team is doing a tremendous job, but bear in mind that they are going to use these new standards, which are much more relaxed. And the only thing that you may run into as long as you run by these standards is if you get a color choice that simply stands out. I think that's going to be an unusual thing, but it could happen. But we're going to try to get an email blast out tomorrow that will contain the design standards and the color palette for each street. So that should allow you all to work with your roofers to get moving. I know a lot of you haven't gotten back from your insurance company yet, but it'll happen, and hopefully we won't have any more storms like tonight.
Are you ready for the question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
I have one quick thing to
And
add.
a number of roofs have already been approved.
Yes, sir.
As a follow-up to that, I am requesting that the resolution that we just passed is permanently put in the ARC guidelines, paragraph 28, which I provided you a copy. So essentially bringing in the amended resolution into the permanent record of the ARC guidelines, paragraph 28. So I would recommend approval for that.
You need standards. Standards. Well, correct. That's the new word, right?
Does that require a motion, or are you just going to do it? No, it'll be done. It'll be done.
That
Okay.
was part of what we discussed.
Right, okay. All right.
John,
Yes, sir.
I think, just a fine point, I think the accurate sections that need to be updated are section 24 and 25 of the design guidelines. It's what's posted on Sandoval Live right now. So I think these would go into that section, that's section 28, just
The appropriate
Okay.
section.
appropriate section, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
Okay, we are now ready for new business. We have the opportunity for retaining our current law firm who's been with us for years and is fantastic in this field. Do I hear a motion to sign the Becker retainer?
I'd make a motion. I'll second that.
All those in favor of?
Can we have discussion?
Of course.
In my short period of time that I've been here, my experience is that the law, my experience in the short time I've been here is the law firm has been very lax in their response time back to our questions. And what I'm concerned about is that in retaining them, we're not exercising any oversight relative to our expectations for response time back to our queries. And I think that needs to be added to any agreement, continuing them as our legal team going forward.
How would you phrase that?
I would say that they owe us an email response within 1 business day of getting a question from us. And that response can say, I don't have an answer, but I will get you an answer by XYZ date. I think it's been very frustrating because we've had a lot of key issues that we needed their guidance on in order to move things through the community, especially, and as we get through these Hurricane Ian issues, it's going to become harder and harder.
I totally agree with all of your comments, less than responsive. Unfortunately, we're up a 2-week window versus our retainer expiring for 2022. I think from reading this particular agreement, we can terminate at any time. So I think just as an approach that if the board wants to interview or seek out additional counsel, I think that would be a prudent thing to do, but at this particular time, I think it makes sense to sign the Becker retainer, move forward with it, and kind of develop a strategy if we want to continue.
I think at a minimum, if we sign it, I understand the time crunch around that, we need to articulate what our expectations are and tell them we will be judging their performance against these expectations going forward.
Can't disagree. Got one right there.
And I have seen the same thing you have, especially within the last 6 months. Kathleen has had a lot of frustration with that. I don't know if that is a personal issue at the attorney's level, but we need to remind ourselves that A, this agency has provided us with a very long history of our community. But that doesn't mean that we just agree with what they're saying. I think that you just made a very valid point that I didn't even think about, and that is that yes, we do have the opportunity to say, we expect acknowledgement and some type of response within 24 hours. I have to respond to my emails within 24. I think anybody in a professional circumstance does that. That's just a minimum. Even if it's just to say, I don't have an answer, but we're working on it. Yeah. I do have to say that was a huge frustration point for Kathleen. And I don't want it to be a huge frustration point for you.
I had an interaction with him today. I sent him an email. I got a response in 2 hours. So it started fine. But I will say that a lot of interaction has happened with our attorney without the board or the office knowing about it. In the future, we need to make sure that when we get a response from them, that it's communicated to all of us. Further, I want to, after this is done, I have another motion which would change our contact with them. Okay. All those in favor? Yes.
You want me to amend my motion that provides a performance clause within the retainer?
At least articulate our expectations, and we'll be judging their performance based on that
I'd
expectation.
rather do that informally,
Okay, that's fine, that's up to you.
rather than try to change the contract.
Yeah, I'm not trying to change the contract, just say this is how we'll be judging you going forward.
Just communicate it.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's fine for now.
All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, I'd like to, this time, in the past, we've had one person interfacing with our legal department. I think that should be 2. Should be the president and the treasurer. Could I have a motion to that effect?
I'd make a motion to do that.
And I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. I think that having both of us contact them will make it even tighter, Bill. Okay, operating budget review.
Brady, can I have the mic?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, since we went through the review with the community review and it's on video replay, I'm not going to make everybody sit through 30 minutes of chart presentation again. But the package, the key package for the operating budget proposal is included in the board package today. And the operating budget is, we believe, is reflective of a cost of living increase that we have to bear as a community. There are a few discretionary changes that are in there, such as we've added a small amount of discretionary expense to the legal line so that we can improve our, so we anticipate increased collections on back assessment fees. There is an increase in lifestyle based on the request of the lifestyle committee. And other than that, most of the increases are based on actuals through the October timeframe with a calculation of a cost of living increase going into 2023. In addition to that, the largest single line item in the operating budget is the DTE contract, and the 2023 budget is based on their contracted rates with an anticipated cost of price increase that their contract allows in the March timeframe. Now, how the year plays out is a separate story, but based on the current contract, this is what we're going to owe them for the contracted services. So that is and as a result of that, what we're looking at is an increase, I'm going to make sure I get these numbers correct. So we're looking at increasing the base assessment for all houses on a quarterly basis, raising it 12%. From $530 to $595, that's a $65 increase. For the assessment for the houses that are covered by DTE services, we are looking at an additional $62.85 increase in the quarterly assessment to cover the contracted rates with DTE. One other note, because as I mentioned at the budget review, we're about a month behind in presenting the budget for review and approval. The first quarter assessments will be at the current rate that were charged for Q4, and that we will have to amortize the 4-quarter increase over the quarters 2, 3, and 4 in 2023. The other part of the proposal, the budget proposal that we presented, is that we looked at the reserve study that was prepared by Reserve Associates, and looking at their projected spend into the next 30 years or so. The Finance Committee, we decided to focus on the next 15 because that's where we had the better chance of swaying what the real impact would be. And from that, we came to the conclusion is that the current funding mechanisms are not adequate to support the needs as depicted in the community, in the reserve study. So we have proposed, so a second proposal as part of the budget proposal is to raise the homeowner assessment or new homeowner assessment from $3,000 to $5,000. So I'm more than happy to go through any of the line items in detail, but that's just a quick summary of the budget proposal.
That increase from 3 to 5, when would that be voted on?
We are so there would be a separate vote as part of the January 5th meeting. Now we can delay it if the board chooses to push that off for more study. My recommendation is we don't go much beyond the second quarter of 2023 with some kind of improved reserve funding mechanism, because quite frankly, I don't want to miss, if we're going to do something with new house sales, you don't want to miss any of the house sales occurring in the early part of the year. Now, one of the things that we did do is that any houses under contract by January 1st would be covered under the current assessment. They would not see the increased assessment.
There was an attempt to raise it from 3,000 to 4,000 a couple of years ago, and that was defeated. I have great sympathy for the condo owners, because I think that 5,000 is, penalizes them too much. I would like us to look at alternatives. Is there any legal distinction between a percentage or a flat rate?
As I read the charter, there we have the ability to do I can look it up, I've got the paperwork here. I believe it's called, I forgot the exact wording. We would have to give a legal opinion if we have the ability to do a graduated assessment based on house sale. There would probably be something we'd need to get a legal opinion on to see if we could actually do that or not under the current wording.
It would seem to be more fair to base it on the price of the houses rather than arbitrarily 5,000, but let's postpone that for another discussion.
I mean, what we can do with the finance committee is we could put together a model of what that could look like with some recommendations. And obviously, it's a bit of a swag, because you're going to say, well, 18% of the sales will be from the condos, 30% will be this range, 30% will be that range. So we can play with that kind of numbers, but in the end, we need to raise approximately $500,000 a year over the next several years.
Right.
So we're basically about 200 to 250 short every year under the current funding mechanism in order to meet the needs of as projected in the reserve study.
So if I understand what you're saying correctly, the finance team is going to look at, here's what we need to meet, and then based on average sales, this is what we're going to show as our target for home sales. So for example, if we have to shoot for a percentage, or is it going to be, like you said, a graduated scale of?
I think it would, so we can look at two different ways. You can do, you say you can look at, let's say 0.5%, 1%, 2% of the house sale, okay? But where the key assumption is, what is the mix of house sales that you're assessing? So, because the condos will have, let's say, a certain average range, the villas will have a certain average range, houses that will have a certain range. I mean, we're seeing certain houses selling approaching $750,000 right now.
But some houses are not. Some of those villas houses are nicer than some of the smaller houses in phase one, so how are you gonna figure that out?
Well,
If
so
my house sells for $220 and a condo sells for $300, I'm gonna pay $5,000 to my seller, and then, well, it doesn't make any sense.
no, so the way the assessments work now is the buyer
Well, that's understood,
Right.
but you don't understand what I said, I guess. Because if you're gonna go across the board, just like I said, some of the villas, if you take a less percentage of them and make them only pay $3,000, then they're a lot nicer than some of the other houses in phase one. How do you figure that out?
So there's, first of all, we're gonna need a legal opinion about what mechanisms are allowable. I mean, the easiest one would be a flat rate saying X% of the house sale is owed at close to the community. And that, let's say, it's 0.5%, 1%, 1.5%, I don't know what that number would be at this point. So the tricky part of trying to do that analysis, Dan, is what is the mix of house sales over the next 10 years? So that we can accurately forecast what the income's going to be into the reserve funds. So that's what I'm sort of struggling with in terms of how we'll come up with that. We're going to have to come up with a couple different scenarios around that.
I'd like to leave it to the finance committee to present something at our January meeting, but I will say that in talking with the mayor to ask him what the city used as their depreciation for streets, which is the big item
Right.
in our study. It's 20 years for streets like Santa Barbara and Chiquita and Skyline. The residential streets in the developed areas are 25 years, and it's 30 years in the northeast part of the Cape, which is undeveloped.
Right.
So consequently, our gated communities have less usage than the regular city streets. So therefore, I think the reserve study has come out very conservative as far as when they think we need to repave. And so I just wanted to point that out. And I know we don't have to spend until we have to spend. However, and planning is important, but I was not happy with $3,000 I paid when I bought in 2017. But I wanted to live in Sandoval. And I think there will be others like that, but it's important to be fair. And so consequently, I look forward to what your finance committee is going to present.
Okay, so just as an aside, Merlin, I would have paid more to get away from New York State. So, when we moved down here in 21, but that's us. The reserve study, if I did my arithmetic correctly, assumes that the roads are resurfaced 25 years after they were originally constructed. So there's obviously one of the options we can take is to push that out 5 years or so. That doesn't change the fact that we've got about there's 3 issues starting to play here, okay? And one is, the first one that we struggled with is, how much money do we want to have in a reserve account that is there in case of a god-awful emergency? Right now, we've got $3 million. If we increase the funding to $5,000 under the current proposal, we're going to end up with about $2.5 million at the end of 15 years. So we're still not in bad shape. Okay? So if we want to stay in that range, you gotta have a plan that sort of basically keeps that piggy bank untouched. So you've got to self-fund the spend that you want to put in. Okay? The second thing is what's a fair mechanism? I mean, we're struggling with an approach where we're not trying to add cost to the existing homeowners. So, because we're probably going to see something as a result of Hurricane Ian down the road that we're going to have to ask the homeowners to pony up with. So, looking at that type of thing, that's why we said, okay, we've got to do $5,000. Okay. Then the third thing is what's fair, and I think we had an interesting discussion at the budget meeting, and I want to give that discussion justice. I think it'd probably be better if I just went back and rewatched the video play, because we had a good back and forth with that about what's quote unquote fair in terms of to new homeowners versus existing homeowners and things like that. So I think we certainly, I think the finance committee can go and look at a couple different scenarios, but in the end, we're going to have to say, I'm recommending that we still always end up with that $2.5 to $3 million piggy bank, no matter what we've got to spend over the next 15 years. So whatever plan we come up with has to leave us with that amount of money when we're done.
I just wanted to ask clarification for my own personal reasons. I was under the impression that an assessment to individual homeowners went into one bucket, and that the funding coming from the purchase of a home, this $3,000 or $5,000 amount, went into a separate bucket.
So it's, as I understand the law, and the definition, the money that we collect at the sale is called a reserve assessment. Okay? And the HOA has a lot more discretion as to how that is spent.
Right.
If you collect a struggling with the right terms, I apologize, memory loss right now, but when you do a special assessment from the homeowners to go into reserve, you have more restrictions in terms of how it can be spent and when the community has to vote on it spent. So I apologize, I'm having another block on the terminology at this point.
No, I think I get it. My concern is that if we don't raise these funds through individual sales, whether it's a set amount or whether it's a percentage amount per sale, that we could be looking at assessing residents to make up that difference.
Yes.
And, okay, that answers my question.
Yes,
That turns into a very
in
difficult.
case you were gonna ask the next questions, we did like a rough estimate.
Good.
And if we wanted to do a homeowner assessment and leave the $3,000, we would have to add $160 a year to the assessment bill to the homeowners.
Well, I don't think anybody wants to see that, but, I mean, nobody wants to see their rates go up or see an assessment. But this is not a simple, I'm just beginning to realize just exactly how complicated this is gonna be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, as we were struggling, I mean, there's the first, we were going through like 5 or 6 different scenarios, trying to do a blended change and things like that. And it's one thing I will say is that if we're doing much better than we thought, there's no restriction on us bringing it back.
Right.
Okay, to a lower level, if we've achieved our goals much sooner than anticipated.
Thank you very much.
Todd has for it. Todd, you want?
I have several different comments. First of all, I think the Finance Committee did a fantastic job in putting together the operating budget and looking at the reserve. The important thing that I think most people need to understand and do understand, the annualized inflation rate in 2022 is 7.5%. We've all felt it. There appears to be no relief in sight. So the reality of it is costs are going up. My challenge, and I hope it's my fellow board members, is that as costs go up, it has appeared to me that service quality has gone down. And we need to figure out how to turn that around so that the property owners get fair treatment of their particular dollars that they put into the HOA. That's not towards the, that's.
No, I think we all want to get value for our money.
Yeah, and I think we've been treading water on that for a couple of years, and hopefully we can turn that around. The other thing is the reserve. I looked at the reserve study. The reserve study makes an assumption, and I think we talked about this, of a 3.5% inflation rate. And I think you ran a model at 5?
Averaging 5 over the 15-year period.
Which I think is probably the realistic tool to look at to find out where you're at. Now at 3.5%, the reserve study points out that if we don't address this, kind of along what you're saying, Bill, is in 2035, we will be at a deficit and not have monies to basically to fix the infrastructure.
Right.
So, I mean, it's always been one of my hot topics that we've needed to address for many years, and it's, for some of us, it's like that old Freon oil filter commercial. Pay me now or pay me later. So I think we're on target. We've got to figure out the way to do it. And again, I would hope that the property owners would hold this board accountable in 2023 for increasing the quality of services for the value of their money that they're putting in the HOA.
Ty, just to amplify what you were saying, one of the nice things about the spreadsheet that the modeling for the reserve analysis that was done by the Reserve Associates is that you have the ability to change the rate. And when we went in and changed the rate, it adds $1.6 million to the cost over that 15 million of that 15-year period. So you're right, it's pay me now or pay me later.
Can we proceed?
So, John, just one more comment. I think so this is my first crack at doing this process. So as I understand it, this has been presented to the community and to the board, and then we have a 2-week period where we have to review, and that's why we were planning on a meeting on the 5th to approve or disapprove the budget, and also we'll come to that meeting and present alternatives on the reserve. At least we'll try. If we can get everybody together during the holiday season, we'll do the best we can.
Although it started late, you and the finance committee have done a better job than I've seen in a long time. Really well done.
I think they all did a good job, and they worked hard, and kept us honest.
Let's move along. Shall we, go to, committee reports? Grady Steve, landscape.
The landscape committee, they continue to sort of sit sidelined because there's just so much damage out there. The number of trees we lost in just the common areas was well into the mid-500 range. That doesn't include individual homes. There's still stumps out there. So what they're doing is they're kind of biding their time with cleaning up the allowed plant list. They've really been expanding their wheelhouse and learning an incredible amount about what the landscaping teams that work for us do and what they can do, the value that we can pull from them, and they're willing to jump in and provide the information. The landscape team continues to do an amazing job that just show up every week. They walk the neighborhoods. I joke that Linda Duclos is going to walk the legs off of her dog. She's constantly walking. But one thing that I would just ask for all of the residents to remember is when you are talking about that number of trees, you can't comprehend the damage when you leave your home and drive out. You have to hear that number, mid-500 trees lost just in common areas. That doesn't include the ones that you've lost in your yard. That's a huge amount of damage. The fences, good luck getting one before February. There's just a lot of infrastructure that they're looking at, and they're queuing up all the different things that they want to see happen. But they're also educating themselves, and they're also expanding their knowledge base. It's a great team of people to work with. They've done an excellent job. But to be honest with you, they're really focused on making sure that they follow up on making the common areas look as nice as possible. And they're looking at the different things that we're going to use to come back to fill in what we lost. So that's the key there. And thank you to every one of the landscape team members. I appreciate everything that you do. I'll just go ahead and go on to the ARC. I don't think anybody at this point doesn't recognize the amount of work that the ARC team does. They're literally swimming in applications. The back and forth just within board members, and many of you have seen this played out on Facebook. Many of you have put in applications. The ARC team now, after tonight, they have tools and guidelines, standards that they can use to process your applications, because they understand they, like you, need a new roof. They, like you, need to paint their house. So they are putting in a tremendous amount of time processing these applications. These new standards will help them very effectively do that. My commitment and John's commitment is to get an email blast out to every resident indicating what these new standards are, what the color palettes will be for your street. Whenever you get that, I encourage you to look at the 5 items that are listed, the A, B, C, D, E, which covers the material, it covers the design, and then additionally it'll have a color palette for your street that will let you know these are the colors that I can choose. While ARC is encouraged not to deny an application because the color substantially differs from what you already have. Say, for example, you have, like myself, you have a blonde roof, but the only product available to you, to me, is a different style tile in a much darker color. Well, they're going to be tasked with saying, well, that's not too far away from what, it's in the brown family, that type of thing. Just remember that if you can use these guidelines to choose the design, the material, and the color, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble. I'll remind you all that they do need a couple of items. They need the business license, workers' compensation, and general liability. Sometimes my vendor is including auto insurance liability, but I don't really understand what that was for. And I think that was a previous GM that was asking for it. But just make sure that you do what you can to get that information to them. They will work as hard as they can to make it work for you. They understand. They need roofs as well. One last thing, I don't think that the board really talked about this or agreed to it, and we may have to revisit this for a vote, but the fees for hurricane-related applications have been waived. So if you are repainting your house or replacing your roof, there are not any fees related to that. There's not a deposit, there's not a fee. If you find that you are being asked for one, check with Chuck and make sure that that's the case. Other than that, the art team just appreciates the thanks that they've gotten from a number of people so far, and please understand they're doing the best that they can.
Dan, you're on.
Amenities, and safety and security. I'm just gonna go down the list of the things that I have. The Calypso tickies are done, they're replaced and fixed, they still have the pavers left to do. They were torn up during Ian or the installment of Calypso tickies, not quite sure about that. But they're gonna use the same company as the bocce ball court, so they go in tandem. There's only one tennis court closed right now because the fencing posts are facing inwards. Fencing company's gonna come out and fix that in the near future. 2 out of the 3 umbrellas in the pool are up and working. The 3rd one is waiting for hardware, I guess cords or something to open and close them. All 3 motors to the pool are here. I believe 2 of them got here today, and they will be installed. They will be installed soon. The new controller that regulates the salt turns it into chlorine. It's up and running and it's working great. The pool it's going really good. Any issues with the pool and all that, they're all slowly going away. We're going to be doing a bigger overhaul later on in the year, early next year, to finish the whole thing off. And the pool should be working perfectly, including 10 brand new heaters, because those are really old. And we're going to get all 10 replaced. The money's there for the reserve. It's been sitting there for a while, so no issues, or there shouldn't be any issues with that. There's not going to be any downtime when the heaters go on. It's going to be a 2-week turnaround. It's going to be cold, a couple days, but it'll be okay.
The pool won't be closed.
Yeah, it won't be closed for the heaters. It's just going to be cold for a couple days until they get up and running, and those are going to last a long time, longer than Jack's going to be here. May overhaul the pool, remember that already. Pool heaters, the salt was delivered yesterday for the pool. I said the pool's coming along great. That's just good. Between the motors, the heaters, the cleaning, I'm trying to get that palm tree replaced with a mushroom because that was damaged during Ian. Still, whether it's going to be insurance or out of pocket is roughly $5,000. Wherever we get the money, that palm tree thing's got to be replaced. Everything else is working pretty good once we get the motors running. We'll see if there's any other small costs, and it shouldn't be anything that we don't have already planned through everything. So pool's going to be great. The gym, a door lock, just like all the other locks, where you have to swipe in or use your card, was installed on the inside in the office. So, you know, when kids come around, they can't just walk in and go in the gym, mess around, whatever. Just like anything else is for security and to keep everything nice. So if you can't get into the gym because the doors are locked, or you can't get out, if you can't get out, I've seen a couple of people trying to get out, and the button is right on the wall, just like any other place. You just gotta get used to it. And to get in, you just use your swipe. Let's go down the list again. Tennis we did. Bocce ball court is coming along. You hear them. It's coming along. I saw them out there this morning, 3 of them, all talking to each other, so I guess they were working hard. But it's coming along, so we're just gonna keep on going with that one. Global's out. Security company. Thank you, Chuck. They stopped working. They were horrible. They just went downhill. The end of that. Now we have A+ security, $1,000 or so less a month, with a lot of good workers, a lot of good ideas. You know, a lot of good things coming from this new company that my safety and security people work extremely hard. They're the best committee around, I don't care what Grady says. And that's all there is to it. They're just working. So this security company is going to have the phone number on the car. It's going to be decaled. Any issues with security, basketball courts, whatever, you'll be able to call them up and they'll be able to answer real time, take care of it right away. Obviously, if something is over their head, they'll call the cops. Just if you feel like something, if you see a prowler, somebody breaking in, motor vehicle accident, call the cops. Don't call the security company. You just use your common sense. You know, security company, they have limitations also. The replacement of the stop signs, they're on order and they will be replaced. Minor issue where the company came around and did the main streets and counted all the stop signs that were down. They failed to go inside of the streets where some of the stop signs are still down, and now they just have to revamp a little bit, but they're coming back and the stop signs are going to be replaced soon. The fence is a gigantic mess. We all see it, and getting people to come out here and work on them is an even bigger mess. So they're going to be replacing sections, and hopefully in due time or soon enough. So we're just going to have to, work with that. In Vera, Chuck already went over that. Badges and the stickers, they're still down, right? You're still not able to do them yet. So that's also coming back up a little bit at a time. Just be patient on that. The gates issues are for software for the gates, and Vera's got to work with that, and we're just gonna have to just have a little patience. That's all. And Chuck went over closing the gates, opening the gates, and I think that's about it.
I have a question. With the new security company, I know with the old one, Global, we got a daily report. Will we receive the same from this new one?
Chuck.
Oh my gosh.
That's trust, people. Or I don't like them. No, I do like them. Turn it off. Go ahead, Chuck. I'm sorry.
Okay, an enhancement with this security company is they actually have an online portal. So we used to get a PDF, and it's just a report with some pictures stuck in it. And you had to, like me, I had to save it in my email forever. But now they actually look at a user ID and log on, and you can run reports. I have to admit, this is their first week. They're still doing some training. And we're working with them to get the portal up and running the right way. But you'll be able to get into the portal. You'll be able to run reports. You'll be able to go back in time. You don't have to keep all these emails in your in basket or in your email to be able to look at it. And it's very intuitive. It's got parking broken out separately. So if there's a parking violation, click on that. It shows you who's, what the violations are there. Again, it's week 1. They're still working out the kinks.
one of the things I just found out today, as they're working through the kinks, they have a second security officer that they're going to give us on Saturdays, or Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays, or Fridays and Saturdays, I forget exactly. But a nighttime patrol, a rover, will be coming in here at no additional cost until we get through training. So I thought that was a good token of their, their service that they're trying to bolster up and make a good first impression.
Don't throw it.
Yeah, that might go back this way. One thing I did forget to say, for the people, can I have one of those? John wants a blue one. One thing I forgot to say was that, we've been working on having them start patrolling during the day, starting probably next week, in 2 weeks, once they get their feet wet, in order to calm down with all the basketball players coming in from the neighboring neighborhoods and from solicitors, all the junk that we keep seeing day in and day out. So we're working on the pay schedule and what times they can come in and be during the daytime, not just at night, for certain times. And it's not going to be all the time because we're not going to be paying them that extra money. So that's something else that they're going to be willing to do. Come in the afternoon, 12 to 4 or 9 to whatever, and get more security out there until the gates are fully closed and we go back to whatever normal used to be.
Okay. Next is lakes. I'm pleased to report we have an active lakes committee with James Simonelli as the chairman. Thank you, James. Also, our Pond Watch is working diligently. Pond Watch, led by Mary Mendel, wanted to remind everybody, for God's sake, let's stop doing all that fertilizing because they're going right into our water system. And we probably get enough fertilizer just from the water that we get from reclaimed water from Cape Coral. Okay, and we had a meeting this month to talk about a number of issues. One is the lakeshore repairs on Lake 2, which were extensive. And I don't know what the latest on that is, Chuck. Are we still working with getting bids, or do we have one we've selected yet?
No, we had 3 actually come to bid. 1 actually provided a bid, and we're waiting for the 2 additional bids.
Okay, we got 2 more bids coming, and the first one was quite high. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so we have the high bid as part of the Hurricane Ian estimates at this point, until we get other bids.
So it could be better.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. The second thing is I want the Lakes Committee to be involved in the ongoing management of our lake vineyard. And so we met with, we've been using Sawtooth for years. We also met with Lake Doctor, and we're going to have them compete with each other to see which one's going to do better for us. And Lake Doctor actually helped us in coming up with some of the estimates of cost for this year. Our ongoing monthly fees would be about what they were last year, and that's all been submitted for the budget analysis. And we also asked them to anticipate what kind of erosion correction we'll need for the year. We know two lakes that require erosion correction once the lake level goes down, and we put an estimate for 2 more. Those run around $4,000 to $5,000 each, and that was all submitted into our request for budget, which would be at a reserve amount. So that's it for the Lakes Committee. And next.
The social committee met yesterday, and I was not able to attend because I was getting the stump ground out so that I can plant my shady lady, and it ended up being at the same time. But I do understand their discussion revolved around the voting on the decorated houses, which will, oh, Chuck, you were probably there.
I was there.
Well, why don't you?
I'm going to show you.
Social director.
We have the gift cards, and we ordered the signs, and if the committee is meeting here tomorrow night, I think they're having cookies and hot chocolate and something for the kids, and then the parade of cars travels through to the 10 or 12 houses that they've selected, and they'll come back and vote, and and you'll probably get an email on Monday, proudly announcing who first, second, and third place winners are. And we have your gift cards at the office, and you can proudly come claim your gift cards. So,
Thank you. And I'm also up for the Communications Committee, and I did attend their meeting. And it was a really interactive and good committee meeting. The minutes are quite long, but I still want to share them because there was a lot of discussion and decisions made, and I will call for a vote after I read the rest of the minutes. And there is a need to create accurate monthly calendars, and you can build the links to a more descriptive explanation of the activity or event. And they can set up registration if required and a capacity limit. This would reduce the number of emails the social director would have to manage. And they will be reaching out to Club Essentials, which is the software company that Lynn Sandoval uses, to see if we can have additional calendars under the calendar heading. And they want to add an activities calendar, a fitness and sports calendar, a calendar for scheduled meetings, and the one that would list all activities in the Pelican building. The benefit of creating these new calendars is that we can create recurring events for a year, and staff would not have to create new calendars each month. They would just add new activities or remove those that are canceled. They are addressing each link on the homepage. They need to determine what is no longer valid or relevant and what needs to be added and or updated. And when they have the plan in place, they will add timelines. The top priority for these are the top priorities for the calendar and amenities. The public-facing page has 3,000 hits a month. This is a potential new resident's first experience with our community. And they need to review everything to determine if changes are needed. At a future date, they would like to present to the board the features and the benefits of the website. And the meeting did adjourn, it was just over an hour. And the motion that I would like is to approve Denise Neifelt as a new member to the committee.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Neighborhood reps, I don't have a report from neighborhood reps. Finance.
So, finance, For the Finance Committee report, our last meeting was on December 6th, and that meeting was a working meeting to prepare the final roll-up of the budget and look at the alternatives for the reserve funding. Based on our discussion today, we will schedule a follow-up Finance Committee meeting to look at different alternatives. Hopefully we'll be able to pull people together during the holiday time, so we have something to review at the January 5th special meeting. After the budget is approved, as I committed to the Finance Committee, we will be working on establishing a new chairman for the committee. I was acting as the chairperson during the interim just to get through the transition, changeover, and get into the budget process. And now in September, January, we'll start working on getting a permanent chairman in place. And then, as I mentioned also earlier, we will be scheduling a investment strategy review with our third investment manager. And we have a couple different dates, and I need to query the finance committee members to see what dates we can work around, and then we'll try to get everything posted. It'll probably be a remote meeting from them. They'll do either Skype or Zoom, so we'll have to figure out which location here would be the best for us to meet in order to be able to see their side of it, and hopefully have some, being able to do Q&A with them. So that's all I've done.
We have no report from covenants. Okay. The next meeting date for budget approval is January 5th,
Yes.
right? Next regular meeting is January 26th. Any other business?
Just real quick. On Fridays, Coffee and Conversation has grown very nicely. Coffee, conversation, donuts, get there before Chuck gets there. And it'll be fun. Yeah, just show up. There's a lot of good questions, a lot of answers. Here you get 3 minutes, there you get a little longer, plus it's more relaxed. You can ask anything, and you know, we're pretty good at answering, you know, everything. And if we don't know, we find out. And if we don't know, then we bring it here. So Coffee Conversation on Fridays is pretty cool. So if you want to complain and not know the answers, then don't go. But if you want to know the answers, then watch it. That's at 10:30 on Fridays.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right, I declare the meeting adjourned.
Any questions now? Promote to speak, now let me have the after part, if possible.
I'm sorry, what's that, Tom?
There was
Oh, I got several different things based upon what you all discussed tonight.
It was agreed on in prior board meetings that if there was time, that the community would be allowed to.
Anybody
It
have
was agreed
objection?
upon that.
No. Press on, Tom.
Give him a mic.
Hey, Steve, you look
He's gonna.
No. Yeah.
One of the first things that I could just kind of go over with is, he laid out the budget for you. I didn't hear any real conversation. Is there anything that we need as the finance committee to change as the budget? Based upon what you've already read, so that when we meet again, we know which direction to go, because we do work in the board's direction.
The only thing I've seen is the potential cost of, is this on?
Yep, it is.
Of mailing out statements. Okay? I don't know if that was put in the budget. When we engaged SOCIA last year, they gave us a lot of concessions in their cost on what they call Schedule A. But the mailing statements was not part of that. So those cost about $2 and some odd cents a piece. So we need, if that's not in the budget, we need to put it in there.
So, yeah, I just saw that email today, John.
Yeah,
I'll look at it. It might be.
I know,
It might be covered under postage, it might also be covered under the other areas, I just need to do some research on that.
it could be 15 or
I
20.
just want to make sure we know what we need to look into. Okay. The other thing would be, when are they going to announce the new board member opportunity for the replacement of the one that's left?
I polled the board, and the board felt that particularly now in the holiday season, in order to get the word out to people to submit their names as candidates, there's just not enough time. So we will not be replacing that board member, and it will be, we'll have 3 new board members elected in March.
All right, but I do remember what Ron said to us, that we need to replace the board member when it's terminated or left, quit
With a reasonable
it. So
time.
we do need to do that.
We will do it.
So I know Ron brought that up, and we had a vacancy, and he says that we need to replace a person if they leave. So that's just one of those things that I want to go over, okay? And now I'm going to go, and I've been doing this for a long time, and Todd knows, it's the reserve study, okay? And at first, I don't want to disagree with Jerry. I do agree with Jerry, and I had that same thought process. But we are looking at $27 million over the next 30 years, which means we're looking at $800,000 plus per year that we need to have. We have a couple million there right now. What's going into the reserve account at this particular time is generally somewhere around $300 and some odd thousand, which means on average we're $500,000 that we need to make $100,000 that we're going to need to make up in some fashion. So I would like the board to come up with other suggestions, so that when we spin our wheels to come back and make a proposal to you, that we're going in the direction that the board wants, because we gave you something tonight, and you came up with some alternatives, and that's fine, but we need to know what you're looking for to be able to do that. Now, going back to Jerry, I struggle real hard on what to do with how to assess people, and these are new people coming in, and I had, at one point, you start at 5, and then higher homes pay this, above and beyond that, and I looked at it and said to myself, after a lot of talking to myself, why is it fair to charge somebody a higher price because their home is a higher price? We all use the same amenities, and we pay for those in the HOA dues. So I think, and I understand the condos, and maybe the condo gets, and the villages get one, and then everybody else pays the same, but when you pay 1%, you're charging different people different amounts to use the same amenities. I just don't think, after I struggled with it for a long time, that is the right way to go. So I would prefer you giving us direction that we can work hard on to get to a good resolution that the board can support.
Can I say something real quick? I just want to go back to the board member thing. If I understand you correctly, you want us to pick a board member, like one of our buddies, instead of letting everybody choose the new board?
State statute.
No, the process where people would submit their names, and then you as the board would choose one board member.
That's what I just said.
Well, you said buddies, and that's why I
That's
didn't
pretty much
wanna
it.
agree with that.
So that's what you agree with? That's
You
what
would
you're
hope
saying?
that they're qualified people who come up, and you would.
Instead of having to vote, you want us to pick.
But it's not the first time we've done it, so.
Okay, I just want to get it clear, that's all.
Yes, but it is something that we are required to do
In due time.
on the statutes, and that was what Ron told us when he was
In
going
due time.
to do that at that point.
Right.
So I want us to stay in the parameters that we're
You
supposed to.
keep forgetting, in due time, when we can get in due time.
I don't know if there's a qualification in that. And I do want to thank the Communications Committee for what they're going forward to. It will help the Social Committee and the Lifestyle Director a lot, so I will appreciate that. Thank you.
Tom, before you go, I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying. When you were talking about Jerry, the way that we've always done this was a set amount, regardless of what the value or the sale price of the home has been. In looking at that, in my mind, people who sell their home for $250,000 are paying a lot more than people who are selling their homes for $900,000. And Somerville leaving them completely out of it. In my mind, and I think that in most people's minds, a set percentage that we can determine would cover what we need seems like the most reasonable way to go about it. So if you're looking at us as a board to determine that, we're going to anticipate that the Finance Committee is going to come up with a reasonable suggestion. And in my mind, that's not going to be a set dollar amount per home. That's going to be a percentage based on what the sale price of the home is, that we can meet what we need to get without assessing homeowners any additional money. So don't put the cart before the horse by anticipating that the board is going to give you direction for doing that, because some of us are not money people. Reinhardt is, but I'm not. But logically thinking, a percentage basis on the sale price of the home is the appropriate way to come up with that. And then if we have any shortfall after that, then we can assess the individual homeowner.
And that's one is because we, as the Finance Committee, gave a number per home. I hear the discussion, and you're okay to have your own opinions, that's good. We just need to know what the basic board opinion is, so that we can do the work that you require.
We'll work on, we're not gonna debate this tonight.
If you all kind of go lean toward percent, we'll work that out. But I just want to make sure that that's the plan we want, so it doesn't get moved again to a different plan later.
So, I mean, when the finance committee meets, we'll look at a couple different scenarios, Tom, and then we'll see what makes the most sense to present that.
I want to work on the ones that are viable.
Yeah, and then one of the things is that I've got I will be sending correspondence to the attorney to see if a percentage-based approach is allowed under the current wording. Because if not, they might require a community vote too.
There's a stepped approach. You could have a different amount for condos and different amount for houses.
Yeah. So we'll couple different scenarios, that's what spreadsheets are for.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Bill, I think we could leave it as we've presented, a flat fee, that is one option. Option percentage based, as Grady was discussing. Option D3, tier, as John was discussing. Then it's up to the board to make a determination. But after we've presented three different opportunities.
Right, with the numbers that meet the requirements.
The board has to have an opportunity to chew on what Jerry's been chewing on. Do you leave it as an initiation fee model? Or do you go percentage of sale?
Are we done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
thank you
done.
folks very much.
Thank you, Tom. Meeting adjourned a while ago. We're done.